Hello and welcome to another episode of the Pixel Related Podcast. Today is January 24th, and I am stalling to try to figure out what episode of the podcast this is, but my internet's not loading up fast enough, so I just ruined the illusion.
So we just have to sit here, and we just have to sort of just.
So it's episode 57. Welcome to the podcast, you guys. Seamless. You can't tell anything. I am your host. I am Kyle. I almost called myself Forgetful. That's a long time ago. I haven't called myself by my handle, not for a long time. I've been Kyle for like
that's the old days. That's the long ago.
7 years
before time.
Yeah, in the before time. Joining me as always is Adam.
That time doesn't count, man. That's bad. You did your time, man.
That was the transition from talking about gamers to level 0 as we decided to go by our real names, not our handles. Because we're professionals, and that's what we are. Now, as you can tell, if you're watching the video, you can already tell because we have the image of Ghost Gus up here, but we are Gusless today. It's going to be just the two of us. And you know what? It's January. We are 2 days away from like the first like big games of 2018 coming out. Of course, I'm talking about Monster Hunter World and Dragon Ball Z, which to some people maybe are not huge games, but to us they are definitely one of those is at least a big game. And we played Adam and I played some Monster Hunter World beta together, and we beat some big dinosaur things, and it was fun. As well as we both dabbled in the Dragon Ball Z beta that was out. But we're not really gonna talk about that today because honestly, those games are out in 2 days. Why would we talk about like our small sample size of those things when we're gonna have the full things in our hands in just a couple of days? There is another beta, however, that came out kind of out of nowhere. Honestly, like I don't think I heard that it was going to be a thing until like maybe the day before it came out. And of course, we're talking about the beta for Metal Gear Survive.
Oh, Jesus, like they only like announced the release date within a couple weeks ago.
Maybe, yeah.
Like, it's pretty recent, so I think like I don't think you're the only person who was thrown by that.
Yeah, it's just like, there's a beta for this game out, and I was like, wait, what? Okay, sure, I guess we'll play that.
I didn't know until like I saw everybody posting their impressions because of that preview event that was going down last week, and they're like, oh yeah, there's a beta thing coming out too. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, really? We're really doing that, huh?
Yeah.
That's how we're going.
Because Metal Gear Survive is a online only game. Like many other games out there, which people get all like seems like people are getting upset or like talking about that as like a huge negative. It's like, is that big of a deal anymore for things to be online only in like a world where Destiny 2 is one of, if not the like biggest selling console game? Like, is stuff being online only that big of a deal anymore? I don't know.
There's a bigger talk that we'll be having about the stuff around this because there's a piece that should be going up pretty soon that I wrote about everything.
About
not just the beta, but about everything surrounding that game.
Yeah.
Like I think the thing is that like it being online only is. To me, I only question that because I know like their FOB stuff that they had with MGS5 was like bad. It was a bad way to do that stuff. Like I don't know that given that track record that like that thing being online, I don't know what that looks like at launch day and beyond launch day too, because this is a game that they've kind of given the indication that it's a games as service.
That's very much what it is. Yeah, microtransactions, although none of that stuff you could really see what that's going to be in from the beta. Yeah. But there's definitely microtransactions in there.
Yep.
And so, I mean, like, I don't know how much you played of it, but Metal Gear Survive actually kind of feels a lot like Fortnite.
Yep.
It's at least what is in the beta. There's probably other modes of some sort. I know there is a single player campaign of sorts. This was just a multiplayer, was just one mode, but it was basically a horde mode. It's classic like Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain, like mechanics and stuff like that of just like going around and shooting and whatnot, but you go to a central area and you have to defend a thing from the zombies coming in and trying to do it. And there's different types of zombies that you run into. Some were armored, some exploded if they got too close, things like that. The thing that's interesting about Metal Gear Survive is that everything seems persistent from match to match, which is usually the opposite of how horde mode things work. Usually horde mode is like, oh, in like the first couple of waves you don't really have that much, you don't have that good of weapons, you don't have good of defenses because you haven't earned enough currency or you haven't got enough materials or whatever it is. Well, Metal Gear Survive, it's about like, yeah, when you're first playing, like you have a machete and a spear, and that's it. Like, oh, I guess you have a pistol.
Mm-hmm.
And you really don't have much materials to build defenses. Like maybe you could build like a fence or something like that, but you can't really do that much. And then as you play it, you get drops that are attached to your character. And so when you go into the next match, maybe you unlocked an M16, or maybe you unlocked a bow and arrow. Okay, cool. Now you can use those. And then you also got a bunch of materials. So now maybe you can craft a better fence. Like now you can craft a metal chain link fence versus just a crappy wooden fence. Or maybe now you can craft a trap of sorts, like an electrified trap or an automatic turret. And then, so I didn't dive too far into the beta. I didn't play it a ton. But it's an interesting concept of like in Fortnite, like if from the very small amount I played of it, it was very much like you drop into a map and you start cracking things and breaking things down and getting stuff. Like the weapons carried over from match to match, but the actual like materials that you use to build things didn't. So you still needed to stop and like take like 5 minutes or whatever and mine essentially of wood and ores and blah blah blah. And this one, like, it has like a loading area before you even get to the match where you can just make stuff. You make some turrets, make some things, and just have them on you. And so you can kind of just go in and go straight to the action rather than spending a significant amount of time at the beginning of getting all your materials so they can build up. And then it's also weird because then in that theory, like if you already have all that stuff, so you kind of start out with your base, at high levels, I imagine, where it's already really strong right from the beginning. It doesn't necessarily get progressively stronger over the course of a match. You kind of just build it up to be really strong to begin with. Or I guess you were saying that like the stuff disappears between waves. Is that what it was?
Some of it was.
Some of it does, and some of it doesn't.
Like a couple of fences were like when it finishes, the fences would be gone, or some pieces of defense would be not there. It seemed kind of inconsistent, and I don't know if that was an internet side thing or if that is a part of the game. There was never any good communication of, hey, this is what's happening at the end of this. I mean, obviously it's this beta of this one small portion of what presumably their multiplayer looks like, because it seems like this was a specific type of mission. So it was inconsistent in that regard.
Yeah, but it seems cool that you can kind of just go in and just like, all right, like we're gonna try a hard one, so we're gonna put down like all of our best stuff to try to fight off these guys. Like that has a really cool thing, as well as like an actual sense of progression from match to match as you are getting drops that are like, it's not only just important to get like, oh, I got a purple gun or whatever, like that's really rare. Like, oh no, like I got this material that is really rare, and so now I will be able to build this really rare type of defense that's really strong. Like makes kind of everything kind of important.
And
fun.
presumably that's why it's always online. Their PR line was that, well, we did it so that it all will be connected, so that you can seamlessly connect between online and off, or the single player. And so, like, I think that would maybe imply that you could gather stuff in the single player mode that then would carry over into that multiplayer mode, which then. Like, then you kind of see why they would maybe want to keep it online only, because they are selling resource packs.
Yeah.
And they are selling, stuff that would help that side of it. So, you can see that's a part of why they're keeping that thing online.
Yeah, the online only thing helps to keep the sanctity of the game. Like, same type of thing of why Diablo 3 was online only, is they had that whole auction house thing that all crashed and burned and went away. But it was like, if they didn't have that, like, people could just rack up all kinds of stuff, or you had to be in a special mode to be able to earn stuff to go into the auction house. So like, I get the idea if they're going to try to keep everything unified, then, and you're trying to sell these microtransaction stuff, then you almost have to have it always online. Otherwise, that's just, there's potential of stuff getting weird or grinding or cheating or hacking or whatever it is, and then messing up the online space.
Whether or not you agree with that morally, that is the reason why. And I think if you disagree with that stuff, this thing is a minefield, because I think that so there's a piece that I wrote, kind of, I guess, transition, because I think you pretty much said everything on it really that we played.
It's fun.
I wrote a piece for the site about kind of some conflicted feelings that I was having about this game, because on one hand, I think it's fun. I think that it, to me, seems like a more interesting version of what Fortnite was trying initially. It's funny, I went back to Fortnite. Man, you should not buy Fortnite. That thing as $40, it is a bad investment. You get nothing if you pay the $40. It's all about that battle pass. If you want any of the battle royale stuff, you have to get that battle pass. Buying the base game does nothing for that side of it, which is really, really weird to me. Like, you would figure they'd be like,
they are two different games. Like, that is what it is at this point.
I mean, they're God, they updated the shooting mechanics specifically for one mode of that game so that it played better.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so I wrote a piece, and it should be going up on the site soon. It's called Metal Gear Survive, Konami, and Art versus the Artist. And in it, I kind of go into some of the conflicted feelings that I was having about this game, because on one hand, I think that Konami does bad business things. I think that they do, as a company, kind of morally reprehensible stuff. We've heard the Nikkei report that came out last year about how if you were working for this company, you were getting blacklisted after the fact. If you were working for them and they didn't think that you fit into their culture, you could get like assigned as a janitor or other really gross things. And so, like, it's really easy when you have like an EA out there who has not put something out in like a really long time that I think is like interesting to a lot of gamers, to be able to say, yeah, like, fuck EA, fuck their business practices, fuck all that shit. It gets really tough though when there's something that you're like, yeah, like, fuck those business practices, but also I think this thing looks kind of cool.
And the last thing that they put out was Phantom Pain, which was also really good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably not the last thing. I'm sure there's some other random crap in between there, but...
probably like Pro Evolution Soccer.
Yeah.
Because I think that stuff, from what I was hearing, like that actually runs on the Fox engine, which is really, really wild to me, to think that they build they have this entire engine for a soccer game. But yeah, I kind of go into just some of the moral, I guess you say moral gray area, right? Because on one hand, like, it's really easy to go, hey, fuck Konami, they do bad things. And I do. I think that as a company, they have made some stuff that I would consider morally reprehensible choices, on how they treat their employees, on how they do business. At the same time, here is this thing that looks really cool, and I was really getting into it when we were playing it. And now what? Like, okay, I still think that you're morally reprehensible, but can I do that separating the art and the artist thing?
Yeah.
With this case, and you can bring up in there like Doug Tenenbaum, the guy who created Earthworm Jim, which was, man, it was so wild talking to my family over Christmas, because they're like, oh man, yeah, I remember you love that Earthworm Jim game. And I'm like, yeah, did you realize that guy like funnels money to like really bad hate groups that try to kill people in Uganda for being gay? I'm really fun at holiday get-togethers, is the thing that I'm saying.
Yeah. What?
But like, yeah, like, it's it's, I think, a really tricky proposition, and I think it's especially tricky because there's not a single person that you can go, this is the person responsible for it. You can look at their board of directors and you can look at their company heads, but at the end of the day, like, who is making the day-to-day choices for how that stuff happens, we don't really know. Unlike, say, a company like, bring up some of the news here, Quantic Dream.
Quantic Dream, yeah, that's
It's
what I was
really,
thinking of.
it's really easy to go, hey, like David Cage seems to be leading a company that has some really questionable ethics, if the reports are to be believed.
Yeah.
It's tricky, and
Yeah.
and you know, kind of,
Because even in that
ahead.
even in that case, like in the case of the Konami, like Metal Gear Survive, or in the case of Detroit, whatever, Detroit Two Human, Become Human. I'm like Too Human. That's not Too Human.
Oh man, Dennis Dyack
Detroit,
and David Cage
Detroit
working
Too
together
Human.
at last.
Oh, gosh, the like, yeah, you can, like, even in the case of like Quantum Dream, you can point at David Cage, but like that game is still a thing made by a large group of people that is a subset of that company. You know, I mean, Quantum Dream probably a little bit more whole encompassing than Konami, but yeah, like Metal Gear Survive is made by a group of people part of Konami, and yeah, it's, you do have to kind of separate that stuff, but it's hard to go like, I really want to play Detroit because like Detroit is dealing with some topics and stuff like that that are touchy and very serious, and then you hear about some of the stuff that's rumored to be going on at Quantum Dream, and like, do you trust that they're going to handle those touchy subjects with any type of sensitivity? And
yeah, I think
know.
I think to some degree there is a little bit of difference that I see with, specifically with Become Human, because David Cage, at least the way that it's presented, I don't know if that's how it is within the company, but that is how this article that came out about him, you know, being the Sun King,
Yeah.
it's sort of presented as, yeah, it's his vision.
Yeah.
Like, the stuff that goes into those games is his vision. And so do I trust that guy? Whereas I think like MGS Survive, it's so unclear of where that vision is at all.
Yeah.
Like, who the hell knows, like, what's going, like, who was the person who stepped into that role? Like, I know that information's out there. But, you know, like specifically with Cage, it's like, this is his vision. This is how, you know, this is how everything is always presented with him, right? It's like, he's the auteur, he's the visionary behind the company, and he's the guy who's, you know, creative vision is going to lead all of that stuff. Now, at the same point, like, yeah, it's a cumulative work, right? Like, it's not made by a single person. It's made by this group, and you would hope that there would be some amount of reining in on that stuff. It's tricky, and I think that, you know, we kind of, you know, talked about it a little bit, I think, during some of our, I don't know if it wound up being in, you know, some of the episodes, but some of the instances last year very specifically of like, hey, yeah, these are not people that I want to give like publicity to, or, you know, like the guy, the E3 guy from that was at Microsoft's thing, like, that's not the sort of thing that I want to give publicity to,
Right.
And I think that it, you know, like, I think that's another perfectly fine example of like, hey, that thing looks really good. Like, I'm really digging that art style, but I also have no desire to support anything from this individual, you know, because in that case, it is a far more targeted thing of like, you know, hey, this is the person specifically.
Yeah. When it has a face on it, and you know that's the, I mean, you know, like Metal Gear Solid 5, like Phantom Pain, like, was very clearly a Kojima thing, and if Kojima was, he's not everything runs. He's a great guy, but if he was like a total piece of shit, it would be a lot harder to condemn Metal Gear Solid 5 than it is to condemn something like Metal Gear Survive, where it's kind of this entity of like, who is making this game, like, where did this game come from? But it is still ultimately Konami. I don't know, it's tough. And I mean, and there's something to be said about, I don't, you know, like, kind of like I was saying with Detroit, of like, do you trust Konami's not going to make some of the stuff about Metal Gear Survive a complete shit show.
Yeah, that I
With their
think is the
business
ultimate
practices they do,
question.
you know.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm like, look, if you don't trust these guys, like you kind of inherently have to kind of pull back and say like, okay, I want to see what the game looks like at launch and what it looks like post release, because if it's anything like how they dealt with the online stuff with 5, like 5 was very much, if I'm remembering right, like a lot of cosmetic stuff, and it's like probably $40-$50 worth of $2 suits. Do I trust that Konami's business practices, their business department, is not going to look at like loot boxes and stuff and say, hey, maybe we should be doing that? I don't know. I want to see what that game looks like.
Yeah.
I at least want to see like what that game looks like. It's probably going to come down to like, hey, once this thing, especially since they had this press event, it kind of makes me hopeful that they're going to be doing some amount of pre-release reviews, so that we can get a better idea of what that game is going to look like at launch. It's tricky. Like I think if you are somebody who can't get past the stuff that Konami has done, like I think that is a totally valid reason to not support that. And if you can't or you don't want to, like, hey, you know what, more power to you. Like, and I also don't think like on that same scale, like if you're somebody who is interested in it and you can maybe look past that stuff, I don't think you should feel necessarily ashamed or bad about being interested in this thing.
Well, I mean, because look, at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of games out there, and so, like, if you miss something like Metal Gear Survive or Detroit Become Human because you feel uneasy about supporting something like that, there are plenty of other games out there. But I don't think it would be fair of anyone to go, I can't believe you played Metal Gear Survive, like, isn't Konami? It's like, no, like, this made by a group of people. It's not just one thing. It's, not everything is just one thing. Like, yeah, I think you judge the game on its own is a lot of it, but I don't think you necessarily have to be held to that if you don't want to support that.
Like I said before, it's tricky, but I guess when that thing actually comes out,
which is like February 23rd or something like that. Like, it's like about a month from now, I think. Pretty soon.
It's soon.
So we'll see. Yeah, we'll know not too long what the actual state of that game is. And from the early stuff of what we're seeing and what people are talking about from that press event, it seems like it's not going to be complete garbage. Like, when they first announced it, I was thinking of, was Operation Raccoon City, that like 4-player shooter? Yes. That's what I was thinking, that Resident Evil thing. I was like, I wonder if this is going to be just a complete piece of garbage like that game was. And it seems like it's actually got some really interesting stuff and ideas in there. Yeah. So, speaking of things that have really interesting, weird ideas, you saw that Nintendo is high, right? Like, Nintendo is high, super, super high. They're releasing the game on 420, as well as so does like God of War is coming on 422. But Nintendo is selling everyone cardboard and rubber bands, cardboard and rubber bands,
cardboard, rubber bands, and tape.
And tape, right? Can't forget the tape. Tape.
Can't forget the tape.
Precious commodity. So Nintendo Labo. I don't even know what to say about Nintendo Labo.
I'm super into the idea. Like, I'm not gonna buy it, but I'm super digging that. That's like really.
I am gonna buy it because it's not for me, but I bet my kids will love it. I bet they will love making a piano or a backpack or all of like. I I don't want to
play the robot thing. Thing is, so that's such a Nintendo idea, like that kind of like weird. Like I think I was listening to Giant Bomb, and they described it as like, you know how they had like all those useless attachments for the Wii controller. It's like that, but these ones you can burn. You know, like it's it's such an insane fucking thing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's cool though. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. Like I think that it is. I was initially, because I mean that announcement went out that day that like, yeah, there's going to be something. It's not going to be for everybody. It's going to be for kids.
Yeah.
So expectations in check, and like going into it like, yeah, I'll keep my expectations in check with this. Not expecting them to be like, oh yeah, now kids, by the way, you can play all of our old games on our virtual console. The thing was like legitimately surprising.
Yes. Like, I mean, and it's not the only thing out there that is like this. Like, there are toys that are made that are build your own, construct together. I guess what the thing that is interesting about this is that almost all, if not some, if not all of them are, you're putting the Switch in this thing, or at least the controllers to
Yes.
use motion or use the infrared sensor, or hell, they were making like little bug things that looked like they were moving around using like the HD rumble, like to like have them go in different directions, which is insane. Like,
Yeah.
like they were controlling a little cardboard like six-legged bug with HD rumble. I guess what it really comes down to is, so there's two different products, which is weird. There is a creativity bundle. I should have looked up what they were called. It's like a creativity bundle, and then there's like a robot bundle. And so the creativity bundle looks like it comes with a bunch of stuff. It's like the piano and like all these other things. And then the robot looks like it's just the robot, which is this thing that you put a backpack on, things on your feet, things on your hands, and you're doing like almost like a VR full body thing. Except it's not in VR, I guess. Like, I didn't quite catch that from the trailer. Like,
it's
because he was still looking at a TV, but they had some like hat thing on, so I don't think it's like I don't think you're putting the Switch in front of your face and doing like fake VR.
I could not tell from that trailer what they were doing. I know they've had like stuff out there about how exactly that stuff gets played, but it's wild. It's so wild. And the two bundles thing, like it's like what, 70 for one of them, 80 for another.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
And I think that it's really cool. I think that if this like succeeds, like I think it'd be a really cool way to get your kids into like, hey, here you want to learn some building stuff and learn engineering, kind of like super light engineering, right? But so some basic stuff of like, hey, make your kit.
And they're like, talking about that you can like that there possibility of like designs being put up by Nintendo that you could then just go with your own cardboard and cut it out and do it yourself and make your own kit. Like once you actually own the physical game, or I guess digital game, whatever, however it comes. It's super cool and it's super creative and it's not at all the type of thing that I would think we would have been seeing this early in the Switch life cycle. This feels like one of those like, all right, so the Switch is like 4 years old now. We need to do something weird and bizarre. We got cardboard. Like, it looks if it works it looks super cool.
It feels like it was like the sort of thing that like they just had like a just like a, hey, let's sit down and think about what this thing could do. Like just like not even necessarily looking at this for the purpose of games, just let's think about what this thing could be.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. Like I think that it is nifty. It's not a thing that I'm gonna buy, but I think that it's really cool that like, yeah, you can make a little fishing rod or
that looks cool. That looks cool.
It's so cool. Like it's crazy. Yeah. The piano one is, I think, like to me the craziest one because that's like using the IR sensors.
Yeah.
And, like how the stuff reflects off of it, and
it's like making some of that crazy stuff that no games except for 1-2 Switch. Like no one's used that like IR sensor or no one's used the HD rumble really, and 1-2 Switch wasn't necessarily a good example of that because it wasn't used great. But like This seems like it
Yeah.
could actually be utilizing those things. The weird, unique things about the Joy-Con controllers are actually used pretty well in this thing. From the looks of it, it's all speculation at this point, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's bizarre. And then also coming out that same day is God of War, which is the exact opposite of Nintendo Labo.
No, I mean they're both about having fun with your kids.
Yeah, you know what? You're right.
It's a family adventure.
Point
30,
proven.
30 hours of that fucking game. 30 hours is what they're saying.
Is what they're saying? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nope, I'm good.
Oh,
good, dude.
I'm super excited for that game. But yeah, I mean, I feel like God of War 3.
Not for 30 hours of it.
You never know. God of War 3, I feel it was like a 9-hour, 8-hour game, maybe. Like that's a lot more of God of War.
Right.
It's a lot more of God of War. That's the last. I guess I shouldn't say I did play Ascension, although I don't remember much about Ascension.
It had that multiplayer stuff going for it. That's all I remember about Ascension.
I forgot about that multiplayer stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some other cool stuff. So around that same time, was that the same day or was it? No, that was just a couple days ago. The Xbox stuff.
The Xbox stuff was today or yesterday.
Yes. Yeah, I think it was yesterday. Yeah. So Microsoft pushed out some big news that their Xbox Game Pass, which is a thing that's been going for a while, has a bunch of Xbox One games, Xbox 360 games. I think it's also starting. Might have some original Xbox games on it too.
Yes,
I'm not
it does.
sure.
Yeah, it's got like Fusion Frenzy, Ninja Gaiden Black. I think those might be the only two that are on there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the rollout of like the original Xbox stuff seems like it's been pretty slow. But basically, it's been a $10 a month Netflix for games service. Different than Sony's PlayStation Now because you're actually downloading the games locally to your console, not doing some weird streaming thing. So you're getting the full quality version of that game. But they announced
cheaper is the other like.
Is it cheaper?
Like, I think it's $20 a month for now.
Is it really?
And, yes.
Well, now to be fair, now has a lot more.
Expensive.
Yeah, now has a lot more games, I imagine, because they are streaming.
Yeah.
But that's still crazy. But yeah, so they announced starting with Sea of Thieves next month. Is it next month? Really? Is that really that close?
Yep.
Yeah, I think it is next month. Or is it March? It's February, March. Whatever it is. Starting with Sea of Thieves, new Microsoft exclusive games, such as the three they showed were Sea of Thieves, Crackdown 3, and State of Decay 2, which also means that Crackdown 3 is actually a thing because they mentioned it again. They're gonna be coming
until they forget about it
to Xbox Game Pass day one. So you have no reason to buy an Xbox game anymore. Period.
No, not an Xbox exclusive one.
Like
it's so. Here's the thing. I think it's kind of brilliant because like I was not gonna buy any of those games. Like I was not gonna. I'm not gonna buy Gears of War 5. I'm buy the next Halo.
I might have bought Crackdown 3 if I heard good things, but that would like Sea of Thieves is very much like you have to show me something. State of Decay 2. I mean, I like State of Decay, and State of Decay 2 seems like it's doing the right things, but that's like, but like this is perfect. This is perfect for them to create something out of their library. Like, if you want people a reason to buy $10 a month to sustain it, this is a great way to do it. Now, the scary thing could be on the flip side is I could go like, yeah, I want to check out Sea of Thieves, so I pay $10 and then I cancel it in month 2 and I never touch any of those things again. Or I do that with Crackdown 3. Like, yeah, I want to play Crackdown 3, and so I play it for a month, and then I cancel it.
That's why they also, like, alongside this announced, like, hey, by the way, starting in March, you're going to be able to buy prepaid gift cards for 6 months at a time.
Yeah.
So that's directly why they announced that.
Yeah, but it's not any cheaper, so, I mean...
Yeah, like, you're not saving anything. You're just kind of getting locked into having it.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, maybe that's to... No, that doesn't even make... I was going to say, maybe that's to combat the thing of, like, oh, like, I want to buy it at GameStop or whatever because I don't have online, but if you don't have online, you can't use Game Pass anyway, so I don't know what I'm saying, actually.
Yep.
So, yep. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, so I mean, like, it is, I think, smart. I think that it helps with brand loyalty. I don't know. I wonder, like, with these three games specifically that they announced, would there have been enough people who would have bought them outright? Or are they actually going to gain money on having them use this Game Pass thing? Because look, we just talked about Sea of Thieves. Like, I need to know more about what that game is.
Yeah.
Crackdown 3, same thing. I need to know what the fuck.
It's been a long time
even
since Crackdown 2, and Crackdown 2 was not that good. So.
Right. And even State of Decay. Like, State of Decay, I played the first one and it was good, but like they're adding in this online stuff. Like, there's all of these questions around what that game is, and by saying, like, hey, it's attached now to this $10 thing, presumably with the companies, with third-party companies that they have, they're just paying them out, up front, like, hey, because I have Game Pass, and it actually popped up, and it's like, oh, by the way, these two games are expiring this month, and we're going to be rotating in more.
Sure, like Netflix does, yeah.
Yeah. So presumably they're paying them up front for however long. It's not going to cost them anything to put this stuff onto there, other than potential sales out of it. But
right, yeah,
that I mean, like, I think it's like just this genuinely smart thing of, hey, you also want people to play more on this console.
Yes,
because PlayStation's been leading, and you know what? Like, arrogant Sony, like, now's the time. This is the time to start striking really hard on that. Start adding value for your customers. This thing, like, I've been on a free trial of Game Pass. I'm gonna keep it. Like, it's really cool.
Yeah,
it's really smart.
In your instance, you have the Xbox One X, so it's actually a really good way, and Microsoft does a really good job. Like, I don't have I just have a regular one, and like when I'm going and looking at games, like, it very clearly spells out this is an Xbox One X enhanced game. Whatever that means is, maybe that's on a game basis, obviously that's going to be different.
Totally,
but but the Game Pass is a great way to go, like, hey, what does the 1X version of this random game look like? That's a great way to kind of go check out and put that console through its paces.
Also, I mean, if you haven't played any of these games before, like, yeah, like, it makes a lot of sense to just be like, yeah, you got an Xbox One, I'll pick up a Game Pass, and $10 you get to see, like, Gears of War. I want to say 4 is actually on there now.
Probably, yeah. I mean, honestly, probably all of them are on there if they have backwards compatible stuff. Probably.
Yeah, they might.
Probably 1, 2, 3, Judgment, and 4. Probably.
I own Judgment, yeah. Yeah, so like, just, hey, yeah, go check it all out. Go check out what the backwards compatibility stuff looks like. Go check out what all that stuff.
Yeah, go check out it's got stuff like Recore and Sunset Overdrive, and is Halo 5 on there? Probably, I imagine it is. Yeah,
yep.
Like, that's. I mean, that's good stuff. That's good stuff.
That is a hell of a value, and assuming that these games are good, like that, it absolutely makes sense to continue. Yeah. If it turns out that with Crackdown we get another Recore sort of situation, then maybe not so much.
Yeah, but it also makes, like, from the gamer's perspective, it's very low risk. Like, if Sea of Thieves is not great or it's not your thing, like, you can still say, like, I still got all these other value from all these other games, all these other things that are part of it. Like, even if Sea of Thieves isn't my thing, makes it very low risk for the consumer to be able to go in and check something like that out. And then I don't know what Sea of Thieves looks like. I don't know if it's like has microtransactions or DLC or what the plans are for it. But, like, in theory, that could very, very easily lead to, okay, well, yeah, I actually do really like Sea of Thieves, and now I'm going to go buy costumes or whatever. Like I said, I have no idea if Sea of Thieves has anything like that. It seems like it could. It's an online
probably could,
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually funny because I was talking to a coworker the other day about UFC. We were talking. He was watching the UFC fight illegally, as you watch UFC fights. Watching just a stream from
Yeah.
Reddit or whatever.
Look. Unless you've got like 20 people you're gathering, you don't watch UFC
Right,
streams
exactly,
legally.
exactly. And I was talking about it, and I was like, I'm surprised that UFC hasn't done a thing like WWE did, because WWE introduced their $10 a month program or whatever, and then you just get to watch if I'm not understanding right, you get to watch the pay-per-views, right?
You get to watch everything.
Yeah,
it's everything that they own from the past. Like the only thing you're not getting is like your live Raws and SmackDowns.
Right, because those are attached to the networks of wherever they're through. And I'm like, but yeah, where it used to be the case where, yeah, like getting that pay-per-view was $50 or $60, $70, $80, whatever it was, once a month. And I'm sure WWE looked at it and is like, look, we can get like 20 people at $60 a month, or we can get like 500 people at $10 a month. And like, we're going to make more money. I may have done bad math there, but you get my point. Like, we can make more money probably doing it this way than we were the old way, and that could very well be how Microsoft is looking at the same thing. Of like, if we are getting $10 a month from a exponentially higher amount of people than we would that would normally buy these games, that could ultimately end up being more beneficial to them. The weird thing about it is that Microsoft has been going away from the DLC thing. Like Halo 5 didn't have paid DLC; it had microtransactions. Gears of War 4 didn't have paid DLC, it had microtransactions. So I would hope that stuff is doing well for them, because it's not like you would get into a situation where I would have to buy a DLC pack for Halo 6, but I don't technically own Halo 6. Like, it still probably is.
That would be that is the thing that goes on with some of those games is you can buy DLC for the game and you don't actually own it, which is a thing that I am having trouble wrapping my head around as a concept. Like, that is really weird to me, that you don't own it.
Well,
and especially if it goes off of there.
Yeah,
like
that's the thing I was thinking of.
Okay.
Because people used to say stuff like that for, say, like PlayStation Plus games or games with gold games, but those games you own as long as you still subscribe to those services. Where, if they're cycling a game off of Xbox Game Pass and you bought content for it, then I mean, I guess you shouldn't have bought that content, or maybe you need to just go actually own the game.
Presumably they would be, if this is their big push, you got to assume that in the negotiations they are now looking to push longer contracts. So so you would hope that, like, I bought this game, and I think like Devil May Cry is on there. So I bought Devil May Cry, and I got a pack for X amount of skulls or whatever. Like, you would hope that Devil May Cry is not just going to get taken the hell off of that service, especially with something like that, which is not just a DLC, it's a consumable.
Yeah. Well, hey, if you buy your consumables, better consume them up really quickly before they go away from, or maybe just don't buy consumables. I don't know, one of those two things.
Maybe don't do that. Don't do that.
So it's talking about games that are like coming to Xbox. Rumor has it that Playground, the developers of the Forza Horizon series, are working on a new Fable game. And Adam, I don't know if you know this about me, but I love Fable games. Now, unfortunately, the Fable games have only gotten worse over time. Like, 1 was by far the best, 2 was okay, 3 was bad, and then the like weird Kinect on rails things is probably awful.
It's not a non-rail shooter. It's not a non-rail shooter.
So
it made people sign a wall that said it was not a non-rail shooter.
Yeah. So, well, that's because you weren't shooting, right? It was magic, right? I don't know. I never played it. Fable: The Journey.
Journey.
But I really like Fable, and I think that Fable has always had a lot of potential and just never quite like it's. I mean, that's the whole Peter Molyneux thing, is that Peter Molyneux was aiming way too high, and ended up Like if you just aimed like a little bit lower, probably could have had a really really good game rather than trying to have an amazing game and just getting a poor game. Like all the Fable games have had cool ideas and tried to go for cool things, and they've ultimately just they've fallen shy of it. And that's why I think like Fable 1 is probably the best of those, because it wasn't aiming nearly as high. And yeah, sure, like the stuff that he was talking about of like, you're gonna plant an acorn and then come back 30 years later and there's gonna be a tree
Molyneux
there.
taught me how to lie. Peter Molyneux taught me what lying was in video games.
You know, like stuff like that. Like it never happened, but like what they accomplished in Fable 1 was really good. And just like the idea of like an open world Fable game, action RPG with kind of like mechanics of some like progressive mechanics of some sort about the lives of villagers and be able to affect the world like that is cool ways. You don't need to go crazy with it. I would definitely be super interested what a different studio could do with it. Now the thing I was reading was that they don't have access to the assets of Fable, but they have access to the name Fable, which I don't know what they mean. Like, does that just mean like the names and like the cities and stuff like that? What they don't have access to then? Like they can't.
I don't know.
Like they can't call it Albion anymore or whatever. Like they can't have it set in Bowerstone. I don't know.
That's weird that they wouldn't have that, because I mean, Lionhead's owned by Microsoft at this point, right? Like
Lionhead is non-existent, I think.
Well, yes, but that property is owned.
I don't know. That's the story that I read, that I was reading about it the other day, said that like it would have to be more of a reboot of Fable because there's some assets that were still hung up at Lionhead, and I guess I don't know what that means. I don't know. But I don't think that's big of a deal. Like, you could just go make an action RPG and just have it be a spiritual successor to Fable and feel, with the same type of kind of goofy humor and, like, open worldness and, like, being able to marry this random person in this town and then have wives all over the country. Like, you can still do weird stuff like that and have the, evil without having to go all the way to, like, we're set in Albion and this is Bowerstone and blah, blah, all that stuff. But yeah, that's super cool. I really hope that's a thing. Because as we were just kind of talking about Xbox games, Microsoft needs more games, just period. Like 2017 was a bad game. It was a bad year for Microsoft game exclusives. They had 4 from my count. One of those being PUBG, which isn't quite count.
I mean, technically, if you want to go that route, like they didn't have Cuphead, because Cuphead was a PC thing. PUBG, same thing. It's a PC thing.
Yeah. Well, Cuphead was at least
what
exclusive.
Else was there? Lucky.
Cuphead was at least exclusive to Windows. Right? Because would that come to Steam or is that on Steam?
Yes, it's on Steam.
All right, then never mind. That doesn't. Yeah. I was thinking Halo, Forza. The Lucky's Tale thing is the same thing. That's a Oculus Rift game. Like, there's not a lot. Like, I'm sure there's other ones in there that they probably did.
It was Forza. Was their own. Well, I mean, I guess it was Forza and Super Lucky's Tale, but
and Halo Wars.
Forza
doesn't really count.
Forza has the dubious distinction of being the kind of thing that started the snowball of the loot box stuff last year, because it was before even Shadow of War with that stuff, right? I think so.
I mean, I feel like the worry about the loot box, like, I mean, it came up before Shadow of War, but I feel like people were worried about what loot box was going to be.
The real kickoff with it was that, and then Shadow of War, and then it kind of just all erupted with Battlefront. With Battlefront. So
yeah. But yeah, so anyway, so 2017 was a real bad year for Microsoft exclusives. And this year's shaping up to be better. If they actually hit stuff like Halo and Crackdown and, Sea of Thieves, State of Decay 2, like there is stuff in there. But they could use more exclusive games. And some people might be upset about, like, oh, they're just making Fable, which is another sequel to another game. But, like, if it's being made by Playground, it's probably going to be something different than at least what Fable 3 was. I mean, they probably won't have a whole sequence where you're the king of a country having to decide between making a brothel and making a church or whatever. I have something like that in that game. I don't remember what it was. Like, it's not.
Do you want to be the literal incarnation of Jesus Christ in video game form, or do you want to be the literal Satan?
Yes, basically.
Horns
and all, halos and all.
Playground, that is really interesting. That it'd be Playground.
Yes,
doing it.
It'll be the Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts of the Fable series. Is what it'll be a game where you have to make steampunk vehicles and you have to race them around an open world.
And like nuts and bolts, it'll be better than the game before.
Yep. But underrated. In its time, only appreciated later. Let's see here. We also have Fox Next, which is a studio that Fox, the actual Fox. I don't know if that's Disney Fox or Fox. I can't keep track of that anymore. They're working on.
You got to assume that's going to be. You got to assume that's going to be rolled into Disney, which means this thing is fucking dead already. Because Disney don't do games anymore.
It's true. But they're making an Alien game. They're making an Alien shooter game. Which led to me realizing that everyone forgot about Alien Isolation, because when I saw this, all everyone talked about was how terrible the last Aliens game, Alien Colonial Marines, was, and I was like, wait, like, I feel like I heard really good things about Isolation. Like, what's going on here?
Y'all forgot, fucking king of goddamn horror games here. Like, well, that one doesn't count. No, it do. I mean, it depends on, are we saying that it's an Alien game or is it an Aliens game? Because, yes, the last Aliens game was dog shit.
It was really bad, yep.
It was really bad.
I don't know, but it is a shooter, so maybe if you take it as a shooter, that would make you lean towards maybe it's more Aliens than Alien.
Yeah.
But it's a brand new studio that was made last year. That is basically they're going to go make AAA games based off of their properties that they have. One of the and maybe this does go back to the Disney thing, but one of the first things they're making is like a free-to-play Marvel game that's not called Marvel Heroes. I don't know if I know what it's called, but
I wouldn't do that if I was you. Did you see what happened with the last one? Oh,
it's totally different. This one's going to be.
Oh, that's real bad.
This one's going to be AAA. That was a AA game, so it's fine. This one's triple.
Oh.
But no, so that's the tagline. Is that they want to make AAA games out of their big franchises, which that is a. I like that. I like that idea. Like, I feel like within the last 5 years, 10 years, the whole video games based off of IPs like that have kind of gone away. This one doesn't. I don't think it's going to be tied into a movie because we just had that last Alien movie last year or the year before.
I mean, to be fair, it's probably not going to be tied into a movie because the Aliens franchise is pretty much dead at this point. It's going to require
After Covenant,
a full reboot.
But that's what I'm saying. So it's not going to be based off of a movie, I don't think per se, but it is based off of a movie franchise.
Yep.
Which is definitely gone out of style. Now it seems like those types of games are being made for iOS and Android and going free to play. Frickin' the Star Wars
Empire's
Battle
War.
I don't know, whatever it's
Empire
called.
War.
Yeah, the turn-based thing. There's the Marvel the Marvel fighting game that they have on handheld or on mobile. It seems like that's where games are going nowadays for these properties. There probably is an Alien one. I don't know. I don't really play those types of games.
If there was, I feel like I would know about it.
I don't
that
think probably
so.
isn't. So I appreciate that they are going not necessarily just for the Alien franchise, but they want I would like to have a really good X-Men game or a it's kind of rude to say, but a really good Star Wars game, let's say. Because we're not getting those.
Haven't had good ones of those in a very long time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Someone to actually take a full on AAA look at a franchise, something like that Mad Max game was not that great. I'm trying to think of recent examples. They've all been not great. Mad Max is probably the last one to actually try it. Even that was kind of just kind of came out about the same time as the Mad Max movie and wasn't related. And that's what honestly what I would probably prefer in a game is to either be completely unrelated from a movie, or either coming out completely separate from the movie, so at least they're on their same thing, like the Spider-Man game that Insomniac's doing. But you know what? Like these franchises and these IPs are cool, and people like them for a reason. And it makes sense that people would want to make really good games based off of it, and I would like to see that type of thing return.
I would like to see that type of thing return, but I would like to see it not be, hamstrung, which was always the issue with all of those big name ones, is that they were always tied into, hey, this thing has to have a release date. So this thing being tied into Aliens is fucking perfect because there's not going to be another Aliens movie for a very long time.
Covenant didn't exactly set the world on fire.
No, I liked it. Whatever, I thought it was good, but like that, there was like 5 people in the world who saw it. Like, okay, the only movie that got seen last year was Blade Runner. All right, so that should tell you what's going on with that film franchise.
So the Blade Runner game is going to be coming out. No, I'm just
we're releasing the Blade Runner game. The old. There is a Blade Runner thing out, and I don't know how legit it is.
No, you're talking about that, like the
thing.
the VR experience. You don't have to play it in VR, but that's how it was pitched when I first started. It's like a VR, like go explore his apartment. It's supposed to be really well done. I have not looked at that.
It's really good. Like it's surprisingly like one of the just best looking things. But it's also like you're just exploring Deckard's apartment, but they're also like playing clips from the movie, like the enhance, like that whole thing, like they just play that out and you're watching the TV and it's enhancing and enhancing and enhancing. I don't know if it goes on for the full 100 minutes or so that scene does in the film, but I think it could be cool. I want to see what that is though at this point, right? Because look, like Marvel Heroes got shut the fuck down, and it's at the probably the best point that Marvel's ever been at.
Yes.
With how much money they are making. So
like why isn't there an Avengers game? Like open world, like I guess maybe like I said, they just seemed like that's like the money to whatever return ratios maybe just not good, not in it for them, because they see how expensive it is to make AAA games. I'm kind of disappointed that this Alien thing isn't just Alien Isolation 2, because I appreciated the little bit I played of Alien Isolation, but then when I started hearing that it was like a 20-hour game, I was like, I don't think I'm in it for that long, and so I kind of cut it off. But I would be really interested to see what they could do, maybe tighten it up and making like a sequel to that game. And this is not what this is, because this is not Sega involved in it. This is a brand new studio. This is a brand new thing.
And if it's a new studio, then that makes me wonder if they've still got the license at all.
And maybe expired.
Because, like they might be able to keep selling that stuff. But if another team is coming in and making the game. And they made an entire studio to start working on this game, you have to imagine that the reason they're doing that is because, hey, they don't have a third-party partner working with them on that stuff, which really sucks. Because, I really remember when Isolation was being shown off, and they were like, yes, this is footage. This is actual in-game footage of what this game looks like.
Yeah, and it looked great.
They were trying to rebuild trust. It seemed like they were.
Oh God, Colonial! Now I just remember those first videos of Colonial Remains and how good those videos looked compared to how they ultimately looked in the actual game. God, that game was so bad. Is that the worst train wreck of video games in the last
generation?
Probably.
Of last generation, the only one that I can think of, and I keep meaning to see the article because I keep seeing it float around, but Lair is probably up there, as well as Killzone 2.
Yeah, at least Killzone 2 at the end of the day was a good game.
I don't think Killzone 2 I don't think Killzone 2 was a bad game by any stretch of the imagination, but It's tough to remember that like the start of Last Generation was real fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, because there was Too Human at the start of Last Generation
Yeah,
too.
Too Human.
Uh,
Which that you know what? That's another one of those things that's like, man, I wish they would have gotten to make that like second and third game that they were talking about, because that game could have really used some tightening up and fixing of problems. Because there was interesting stuff in Too Human.
there's yeah, I just distinctly remember like at that time like this seems like it could potentially be cool. This like cyber Norse Viking thing that they were going for. That's fucking cool. I dig the shit out of that. And then it came out, and boy, oh boy, that was a game.
Mm-hmm. It was a game. It was ahead of its time. Is really what it was. We got one other little news piece here. It's funny because we were actually just talking about Gearbox and the wonderful things they've done in the video game realm. And one of the other things they did before Aliens Colonial Marines was the terrible, terrible Duke Nukem Forever. And Adam, so let me tell you, I know
the train of disappointment started at Duke Nukem Forever.
All right, so Adam, I'm gonna link two of your favorite things together. Here, are you ready? Adam, I know you like wrestling, and I know you like Michael Bay. One of those statements is false. No. So
Yes.
we have a Duke Nukem movie.
Well, okay, so wait, what Michael Bay are we talking about? Are we talking about Bad Boys Michael Bay? Because I can get behind Bad Boys.
Bad Boys Michael Bay.
If we're talking like Dark of the Moon, fucking Michael Bay, then no, fuck that.
I mean, you know, most recently would be The Last Night, which was unintelligible. Michael Bay is in the act of making a Duke Nukem game, or Duke Nukem movie. Sorry, pardon my faux pas. And the person who is in negotiations to play Duke Nukem is none other than John Cena. That would be a good time for that music to just pop up under that. I don't have that prepared though.
Okay.
Yeah, look, and you know what? Okay.
On its face, it's a bad idea. When you examine it deeper, it's a bad idea.
It's even worse.
Like okay, the person that, and I remember like I was reading stuff yesterday of people being like, yeah, I really hope they tone down all the shitty misogyny. And it's like, it's fucking Michael Bay. It ain't happening. He's gonna double down on that shit.
But John Cena, like surprisingly, John Cena's been in a couple things. Like he's been doing some acting. He's in that Cockblockers movie that's coming up like in a couple months. Have you seen that one? That looks real goofy. It's about a group of parents who are trying to stop their kids from getting laid on prom night. He's been doing some interesting things, and I feel like maybe ultimately he'll end up falling off of the project. Or I mean, like in all honesty, the project will probably never happen. Like this is probably all just like I'm sure that these talks are probably going on, and it's probably something that wants to be done.
I was reminded yesterday that there was talks at one point of a Carmen Sandiego movie with Jennifer Lopez.
Really? I didn't know that.
There was. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they were there. That was in talks at one point.
Huh.
There was
the one I always think about is the Kane Lynch movie that was supposed to be Jamie Foxx and Bruce Willis. That's the one I always think about when I think about video game movies that were like the most bizarre things. Like, why would anyone make a Kane Lynch movie? Like, those games are like a speck on like video game memory. But
yeah.
So like, yeah, I can't imagine this movie actually existing. But if somehow it did, like, I cannot imagine, like, the way that I perceive, like, what John Cena's trying to do and trying to make himself, like, he's super family-friendly. Like, that's why he's probably as popular as he is, because kids love John Cena. You know, he did Ferdinand, the movie with where he's the lovable bull that doesn't want to fight. So I can't imagine him being attached to a Duke Nukem movie that is, like, crass and misogynistic and show, like, I can't imagine that. Like,
at the same point, a lot of the stuff that he does gets funded in some way from the McMahons. Like there's a
Sure,
lot.
sure.
There's a surprising number of movies that have gotten like there was a sequel to Surf's Up that like was all wrestling. Like McMahon was in it as an otter. Like big. Like, there's a lot of weird shit that goes down.
Which okay, Surfs Up, is that the penguin surfing movie?
Surfing movie, yes.
Okay, okay.
There was a
What?
sequel to that. They pushed it super hard. And they like every ad break because the thing about WWE is they will push anything that has any involvement with them to the fucking moon.
Sure. Well, yeah, they have
Like,
their own like film studio. I remember they had like
yeah,
they've done like I mean talk about John Cena. They had like the Marine movie. I remember there was some like horror movie with Kane in it. Like they've made other Marine
that's
movies.
all the like that's all the super early stuff. Like they've
Yeah.
continued and like even if it only has like vague associate, like now Shawn Michaels has this Christian movie because Shawn Michaels is a super hardcore Christian.
Okay.
Like he got saved and he got saved hard. And so like he has this like Christian movie that like any time that they have to show like Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon in the backstage, there's a big poster that's just right there behind them for this fucking movie.
Isn't that what the back areas of like all like main events are just posters of movies everywhere? Just that's what.
Yeah, and everybody like looks at a TV like that. Yeah, like it's just like
Yeah, no one looks at each other when they're talking.
No. I could see this thing happening if it's getting funded by them because they will commit to a really stupid idea.
Sure.
They have proven that time and time again. And if that is the case and there is like funding and they're going to be funding part of it and part of that is they get John Cena in there, like John Cena was in that is it Amy Schumer movie? Like there was a movie that she did like maybe 1 or 2 years ago, and there's like a scene where John Cena is like in a movie theater. This is the only thing that I remember from this movie, and I might be making up what's said here because I can't remember it exactly, but I remember him turning around to somebody and saying like, "I will eat your ass." Okay, like I don't remember exactly what it was.
Okay. It's violent. Like I would hope.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. It was. You're being an asshole right now, and you know what I do to assholes? I lick them. So I think that John Cena actually would do this movie, and they would just be like, "Yeah, fuck it, like go crazy with the bullshit."
The only way that I would be potentially interested in a Duke Nukem movie if, like, say Duke Nukem was exactly like Duke Nukem is, which is a terrible, awful human being that is misogynistic and just cheesy and terrible, and everyone else in the movie is fully aware of how terrible of a character that Duke Nukem is and is constantly berating and getting after him for it. And like I'm trying to think of like an example of a movie that's like I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but like that's the only way. Like if they just make it like a straightforward just like action movie and Duke Nukem's doing like lines from like Rambo and stuff like that, that's not what I want to see. Like
Death to Smoochie. Like Death to Smoochie by way of shitty quotes from movies. Yeah, like he's just an asshole.
Yeah.
But like he has to maintain a public persona, and then it just ends with him putting a shotgun in his mouth and blowing his fucking brains out.
I mean, that might be also okay.
That I would watch in 4K Blu-ray.
Yeah. The other one is I liked the idea of they mentioned on the Giant Bombcast of this basically being like a spiritual successor to Last Action Hero, where Duke Nukem comes out of the video game and is in the real world and has to figure out that like all the stuff that he believed that like women just fawning over him and him just being able to be invincible doesn't work in the real world, and he has like that would be really dumb but also be pretty cool.
See, the fucked up thing is that like Duke Nukem and John Cena are kind of pretty close to the same sort of person. Like John Cena's a guy who had like a marriage contract with his fiance of like, or or no, it was like I think it was like a sleep together contract that he had. Like, here, you need to sign this, okay? It's a non-disclosure agreement before we have sex. Like, that's the kind of person that he is. That sort of like big-minded asshole from what everything I've heard about him is.
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, he's very egotistical, but he's also like one of the fucking probably richest athletes in the world at this point. Like, you got to imagine, like, he's definitely like the richest wrestler in the world.
Yeah. And it seems like he's trying to cultivate a certain image for himself. That's why I think it would be weird for him to go into a movie and just be like a super, like, if they were playing it straight and for him to be what Duke Nukem is, that seems like that's very against the image that he's trying to create for himself. Like, I mean, look at, like, John Cena wants to be The Rock. Like, let's be real. Like, that's what John Cena wants to be. Yeah. He wants people to forget that he was a wrestler, and, you know,
he's getting late in his career to the point where he only does, a few matches here and there every few months. Like, he's not at like full on I'm gonna do one match a year sort of situation, but he's only showing up every so often.
Yeah.
So, like, you got to imagine, like, you got to keep the money flowing in somehow.
Yep.
Well, Rock was able to do it. Rock is for my stuff about The Rock, like, he's very charismatic, and he can hold your attention, and like John Cena is equally charismatic.
Yeah.
A lot of times his character is played badly, but he can get your attention, and if that's how he sunsets his career, I think it could be really fucking funny to see him as Duke Nukem.
Yeah,
I don't think it would work. I don't know. Like, to me, it's just like, I think what they should do is have John Cena play him, but have all the lines dubbed over by John St. John. That's how you do it, in my mind. Is you don't actually have, and you make it like really clear
now we're
that
getting
it's dubbed.
now we're getting back to Death to Smoochie, though, because it's only when he's as Duke Nukem, and then when he's not Duke Nukem, then he's normal voice John Cena. Like, I love this idea.
Yes, yeah.
And he's just like, and he just like goes home, and he's just like, baby, I'm sorry, baby, I'm sorry. Like, I had a bad day at work. I had to do this video. Like,
I can't get it up.
Oh gosh! All right,
Viagra, you're my only friend.
We need to be consultants for Michael Bay. Actually, no, I don't want anything to do with Michael Bay. I'm going to change that right now before I get into anything there. God, wow, yeah, we got way off the rails here.
You were on to wash a car? You were on to wash a car? Because I mean, he could. Fucking scumbag that guy is.
Story.
Okay.
That story.
Fun talk.
The worst part about all that stuff. I mean, so like that entire story about everything with Megan Fox and how she got the job and all that, like, that stuff is just gross. And then for whatever it is that they broke down in that like third Transformers movie, I don't remember much about it, but I do remember that like all the characters are just like, oh yeah, your last girlfriend was just terrible. She was just an awful person. Like, yeah. Like, oh, she was, and I was just like, God, you really got to just do to millions of people. You were just like we know what's going on here. We know what you were saying about actual Megan Fox. Like,
and then the job of like, hey, look, I'm really sorry. Do you want to play a role, Neil? Like, that was his solution for fixing it. He's so scummy, like up front, like just full on. You can tell, like, anything at this point is. I go like, man, it's gonna be shit if he has involvement with it. Whereas like there was a time when he was kind of cool. Like there was kind of a really good thing about Bad Boys and
in all of those movies that he made Pain and Gain, which I loved. Pain and Gain. I think Pain and Gain is hilarious. Oh, it's not a Michael Bay movie. It's a small, Mark Wahlberg. Funny enough, Dwayne Johnson.
Isn't that the was it? They were like holding hostage or something like that.
It's their two guys who are buddies because they work out at the same gym, and they hold a guy hostage, and all kinds of terrible, awful things happen. Like it's super dark comedy, and it's
also based off of a true story.
Yeah, it super is. Yep, it super is based off of a true story. Yeah. And it's and it's bizarre that Michael Bay.
It's like they have to to hold back because it's true.
But it's bizarre that like that movie came out amidst like all the Transformer movies and the Ninja Turtle movies and like all this other loud noise, crazy stuff that's happening in that tiny little movie that came out in the middle of it. Like I really like that movie is hilarious. But I don't think that opinion is shared by many people. Like I've talked to people that said they did not like that movie. Yeah. So do not take that as universal wisdom. I really like that movie. But I also really like Mark Wahlberg and I really like Dwayne Johnson. So do what you want to do.
I think Bad Boys 2 is an underrated gem in a lot of ways.
Yeah, Bad Boys movies are great. Like if you want to go like back, it's not been that long. It's been like 6 years since he's had a good movie.
Yeah, I remember 2 was the point where everybody's like, okay, I can kind of see where you're going, and I'm not super comfortable with this. And even I was like, yeah, I can totally see the thing that you're trying to go for here. And yeah, like, fuck you, but also this is kind of a fun action movie. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think that in a weird way, he is the perfect director to direct a film about this washed up has-been asshole. I think fits the bill.
Yeah, I just had to go look it up. Yeah, so the Transformers Dark of the Moon came out in 2011, Pain and Gain came out in 2013, and 2014 was the fourth Transformers Age of Extinction. So like it was right in the middle of that was when that movie came out. Yeah. Michael Bay used to be good. I think we need to get out of here, though, because we're talking about Michael Bay and Duke Nukem, and none of those things are good things. I really thought that Duke Nukem Forever game would be good. Like, the little bit I played of it, like, the PAX before it came out was actually cool, and that game was just awful. There was no way that I was ever going to live up to the hype, but even beyond that, I thought it was I remember talking to a friend who got visibly upset when I said, like, it's full of dumbass bullshit. Like, at one point he goes, America, fuck yeah, and this guy was like upset that I spoiled this joke for him, and I remember just walking away from it like don't, like, no, it's not good. Nothing about this is good. Nope.
It's a bad game. It's got bad humor.
None of that was funny. Like, the part that was cool about like that game starts out really well because you play an HD new version of the end of Duke Nukem 3D, and that's cool to like fight the giant monster with the rockets and kick his eyeball through the uprights. That's cool. Like, that's cool part. And then when the actual game starts, it's just bad. It's just bad.
The problem is that, like, I don't think that anybody. It's weird because it's so tied into like internet culture, because like when Duke 3D came out, it was like, oh man, like these are all these references that I'm a kid and I don't understand, like, oh, this is like They Live or Evil Dead or any of that stuff. It's like getting this like cornucopia of like little references, and then like you grow up in the internet age and that stuff's everywhere all the time, so who gives a shit about the references?
Yeah.
Like, if you're gonna go for humor, actually do something funny instead of just referential.
Instead of just referencing it. Yeah, like, and not even referencing it with like a funny take. Like, that's what people always. It's kind of weird, but that's what people always say about Family Guy. Family Guy is just using references. But even when they do their cutaway to reference some random thing, they always have some dumb, funny take on, usually funny, on what that thing is. Yeah, it's like it's they're not just going like, yeah, Halo, right? Like, okay, yeah, like, oh, I get, yep, that looks like a Halo Spartan helmet on the ground. I get it. Yep, okay, you got me, Duke. Like,
power armor is for pussies, yeah. And then he proceeds to have an armor system within the fucking game. Yeah, like, it was a baffling game. But hey, speaking of movie tie-ins, maybe that's when we get our new Duke Nukem game, is when the movie.
Yeah, there we go. Duke Nukem Reborn, voiced by John Cena in the game.
Young Duke Nukem. It's like that Young Conquer video they put out. for the HoloLens stuff.
Oh, I was gonna go with young Indiana Jones, but that's too young. That's too. He was like a teenager there. So
You never go young Indiana Jones. Never go young Indiana Jones.
oh man, oh man. All right, we're gonna get out of here. Thank you so much for listening. As always, you can find us on Twitter, Pixel_related, on YouTube and Twitch at Pixel_related, and our website if you want to see the various things that we put up. It's been kind of a, it's January, so it's been kind of slow. We're gonna start having more reviews and articles and stuff. Adam's thing about Metal Gear, Konami. Should be going up today or tomorrow, something like that. But our website is pixelrelated.net. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Kyle. That was Adam, and we will see you next time.